shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
The constitutional point of view was critical for Jefferson's support of the Bill of Rights.
As we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens, I can hear you!
Is time running out?
It's Saturday. Welcome to the Hayden Collins radio program, the Intelligence Syndicate. Having some fun. Hardly at work. I like saying that because guys are like, oh, they're hard at work. No, we're hardly at work. Well, take a deep breath. Wow. The cold snap has snapped. We're back into warmth again. And I love this. We get to talk about artificial intelligence today. Now, this is kind of scientifically nerdy, edgy kind of stuff that's really going to get your, 1010101's blood flowing. So, our chief of staff had an interesting comment. She goes, what stops artificial intelligence from assuming command of whatever? This is like science fiction movie stuff here. And, there's got to be good machines and bad machines. Artificial intelligence that works for us and artificial intelligence that works against us. And this whole, scenario that's out there. And I said, they made a movie about that? I said, yes, The Matrix. It's The Matrix. They made a movie about it. But here's where you get to have some fun. We posted an article on the artificial intelligence problem. And I will synopsis the article for you. They are using artificial intelligence to help track down and help find and help detain gang members in California. Also, they're using it to track down illegal aliens in all of the strangest places in the world. California, where you're supposed to have more sanctuary cities and blah, 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 left-wing, yakety schmackety, blah, blah, blah. The artificial intelligence is working to track down these individuals and working to track down and get people and either put them in jail. And it actually tracks their spending habits by trends. It tracks their commercial buying habits by trends. Now, understand what I mean by commercial buying habits. Buying a car, buying whatever, by trends. And it sets up arrest. It's not like they have a name. It's not like they know who it is. But the computer tells them, on this day, if you show up to Bob's car lot, there's going to be, 6 or 10 illegal aliens showing up to buy cars with cash. When they do, you'll be able to arrest them. And the strangest thing, now I'm giving that as an example. Don't go try to track that down and go, oh my God, Hayden, that's true. That's no. That's just an example. But the strangest thing is that it's working. The artificial intelligence is doing the pattern of behavior, and it's working. It's tracking these guys down. It's finding the aliens. Science fiction aliens. I'm playing this real hard. And not only is it finding the aliens, they are doing arrests, and they don't require local police support. They don't require sanctuary city help or no help. The software is doing it for them. Now here's the downside. They've made some mistakes. The artificial intelligence made some mistakes. And they had to let some people go because apparently they arrested the wrong people. It happens. They arrested the wrong person a couple of times. So it's not always correct. It's not always on the game, if you will. But from what we've seen, it is somewhat accurate because they're bagging them left and right. How interesting could that be? Now, the second part of this, and I want you to use your imagination on this one. Imagine we're to the point where artificial intelligence is running a few things. It's running, airplanes. Well, wait, they do. They have an automatic pilot. Yep, they're right. We have automatic pilot on airplanes. So it's kind of artificial intelligence. We have, satellites. They have artificial intelligence on satellites. They have artificial... Okay, well, wait a second here. Let me think this through. If we have all of this artificial intelligence out there, how long will it be before a certain circumstance happens? Now, I'm going to reference this video. It's a YouTube video. It's called The Last Days of War. And it's a very creative video. It's done by a student that studied and did graphic designs for shorts, if you will. Minis. And when you pull up this Last Day of War, it's got this great big complex where thinking modules and nuclear cells and power plants are going, and it shows this plane, taking off to go do damage to the enemy. And then you see the sign that kind of flashes across the screen, and it goes, 10 years after the war. Well, wait a second. If it's 10 years after the war, is this a new war? Is this something that's happening? Well, what happens is the plane is taking off. One of the engine isn't working all that well, this, that, and the other. And as it's flying through the air, they cut to the pilot. And the pilot's been dead so long, the only thing that's left is the suit and the skull and the skeletons. But he's still at the controls because the artificial intelligence flies the plane as long as he's sitting in the seat. Think about that. Then there's a gunner, and he's dead too. But the guns still work as long as the gunner is sitting in the seat. This plane goes out and it does its mission. It bombs whatever. It comes back to base. The artificial intelligence reloads the plane, waits for another mission. The artificial intelligence waits for human input for a while, doesn't get human input, goes to default, and launches another mission. Plane takes off and goes bombs again. So the next scene, you get the impression here that it's just going to keep going and going and going. The next thing you see is, it says 20 years after the war. Like, this has been going on twice a year for, 20 years now. So the plane takes off. It's going to go bomb another spot. It's flying out and going over the atmosphere. And all of a sudden, another one of the engines catch fire. So instead of 6 engines, it only has 4. So it's losing altitude. So it ejects the pilot and ejects the gunner. It goes to emergency shutdown, sends a situation report back to the base that the artificial intelligence at base is, waiting for so they can make a decision. And then you see it shoot across the computer screen. Planes lost, units lost, elements that are left, no elements that are left. Well, war's over. We can't fight no more. Well, the war was over 20 years ago, but the artificial intelligence continued to fight the war. It was bombing deserts. It was bombing areas that didn't even exist anymore because it was making a mistake. The changes that bring us to where we are and what we do. Okay, just wanted to put that in there. A little artificial intelligence for you guys. Go in the right direction. Interesting conversation number 2 this week was conducted with some students. And they are doing real-time assessments of current political situations. So the real-time assessments of current political situations. And one of the things they look at is, hey, what lobbyist group is spending money to sell what idea? Now, I understand the industry, the lobbyist industry. All they do is sell ideas. People give them money, and they sell the idea because they like the idea to be sold. So think about this for a moment. If nobody's buying the idea anymore, they can't sell it. And nobody makes any money, and that lobbyist group goes out of business. And then another lobbyist group comes up somewhere else trying to sell another idea or a similar idea, whatever the case may be. And that's how they make their money. They spend their entire lives making money off of selling ideas. You follow this. I know you do. This is the same reason why when President Trump was selecting a Supreme Court justice, they had signs made up of 4 or 5 people they thought was going to be the Supreme Court justice. So as soon as they nominated him, there were protesters there ready. They just had to pick up the signs and go. The industry did that. Because they had money in the industry to protest everybody, by God. That's the way it's going to be. So picture this industry. And then what the next thing I want you to do is picture racism. To where, all of these racists are out there. Now, as you're picturing this, keep in mind, there is a 20-year gap. I will say 10 to 20 years. There's a 10 to 20-year gap in history before it gets to the classroom. So, if you lived World War II, it was in the history books a few years later, but it was really in the history books 10 to 20 years later, and it stayed there forever. Same thing with Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Kids probably didn't study more than a paragraph about that, but now that it's 25 years after the war, they're hailing it as one of the things that, all the countries were together, all the countries made a decision, and then all the countries went in and did this. Never had that before, won't see it again, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. So there is an educational gap about historical events, specifically wars, that takes place. So let's take that and apply it somewhere else. Let's apply it to the history books somewhere else. There are lobbyists out there that are racism lobbyists. Their job is to go and ensure and market racism to sell it as a campaign issue. What? Yes, that's what they do. That's what they get paid to do. So these big scream lately, it was a push, and I don't even want to say it was a liberal push. I think it was a handful of individuals that had a website, and they had, some email accounts, a Twitter account, and they pushed it out there, and it was in a liberal stream, so it got picked up right away, so a lot of people picked it up and ran with it. And, of course, there was nothing to it. So you have, the whole the president's racist. The president received an award from Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali for his racism. Kind of doesn't float there. But the whole racism event, just to do a quick comparison. Now, I said it's 10 to 20 years for the history books before it hits the history books. During the Obama administration, protest, huge Black Lives Matter thing, end of the world as we know it. Nobody supporting the data, nobody backing up the data. Now that data is out there, you don't see a lot of it going on because that lobbyist can no longer sell that idea. Because here's the data. Sorry, doesn't support your argument. So something else has happened. The trend started, I want to say about the first year into the Obama administration, maybe the second year into the Obama administration. The Equal Opportunity Employment Program, which was designed to level the playing field, has run its course, and I'll tell you how it's run its course. Colleges and universities that receive federal funding are required to take X amount of minorities if they qualify or not. They try to get ones that qualify, but even if they don't qualify, they have to take those minorities because they got to meet their federal requirement for the funding they're receiving. So somebody who's qualified, somebody who scores enough to take that course or to go to that college may get bumped because they're not a minority, because the seat that they would have gotten because of their level of intelligence was taken away because somebody is on that program. Now, truth be told, that university also has to graduate X amount of minorities. Okay? Which degregates the system. Because if you find yourself as a university, you're going to lose all kinds of your federal funding if you don't pass 30 individuals from graduation, their senior year, and all of a sudden, you don't have 30, so you got to cut some slack somewhere to make sure these guys graduate, even though they're not qualified. Otherwise, you lose your federal funding. And that's how several universities lost their federal funding. So let's go back to about, I guess, the first or second year of the Obama administration. University of Michigan, I believe, was the first one that did it, or Michigan State. Maybe it was Michigan State. They said they were no longer using that criteria. They were only going to take students that were qualified and academically suited to go to the university. Then all of a sudden there were no lawsuits. Nobody challenged them. They did not lose federal funding because they changed their rules. They said, we're just going to take the most qualified, regardless if they're minority or not. We're not going to discriminate. What? Then all of a sudden other universities jumped on board and started doing that. It's almost to the point where it's going to go nationwide now. If you're qualified, you get the job. If you're qualified, you get the seat in the classroom. If you're not qualified, you don't get it. We don't care about your race or creed. So think about that trend for a moment. So there was an awareness. And we're sitting there talking at the table with these students. And the one student says, well, I'm aggravated because I don't see enough minority actors on TV anymore. And I said, what does that matter? He goes, well, it matters big. I said, why? Well, because there needs to be. And I said, why? Well, because, and he just kept on going that there need to be, because he was thinking that there had to be a percentage met, that there had to be some kind of a qualification. I said, maybe it's because the shows that are on TV are the shows that made it through the gauntlet, and the other shows didn't. Maybe they chose the shows they thought they were going to make money off of, because the creative people that put them together and they didn't care about race. So it was an awkward moment when he said, well, what about advertising? I said the same thing. You do what sells. And he goes, well, there's got to be more minority actors in advertising because, and I said, why? And we went through the same cycle. Now, I'll show you the difference. I will show you the difference. A good buddy of mine in the Army, we both joined, I guess it was the same year. Yeah, we both joined the same year. Served together overseas, served together in combat. Came back. It came promotion board time. We're going before promotion board. And it was just me and John. Now, to give you an idea, John is about 1.5 feet taller than I am. He's a gentle giant. He and I, would give each other the skin off of our backs, even though it's different colors, to take care of each other. It's like band of brothers. So we're sitting outside the review board. And what happens, so when it comes time for promotion in the military, you got review boards. You go before the review board. They either approve or disapprove, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. You go before. It's a long process. And so we're sitting out there, and John and I are sitting there in our greens, and we're all dressed out. Yes, we had greens then. All dressed out in our greens. We're going, hey, this is going to be cool. And then John says, well, Hayden, there's only one promotion. And I said, well, wait a minute. What do you mean there's only one promotion? We're going to the list. And he goes, well, yeah, but they're only going to promote me. They're not going to promote you. I said, John, why are you saying that? He goes, because I'm black. I said, that has nothing to do with it. He goes, yeah, it does. They didn't make their quota. I will bet you a drink tonight. He bet me a beer. He goes, I'll get the promotion and you won't. We'll know today. And sure enough, he was right. But he bought me the beer anyway. It's just John. Sure enough, he was right. And effectively, they told me it was an equal opportunity promotion. And it didn't matter how good my scores were or anything else. I didn't get the promotion. So, that's what it was then. So now the trend is completely changing. And if we go back to that moment in time, it would have been the most qualified. It would have had nothing to do with race. So look at what you're not seeing in the press right now. Look at what you're not seeing on television. Look at what you're not seeing in the same frequency that you did in the past 8 to 10 years in protest. And I will tell you why. It's hard to sell racism to the United States when you had a black president and all the racists didn't come out of the woodwork to stop him. Think about that. Where were all these racists when he was running for office? Where were all these racists when he ran for president? It's kind of hard to make the argument the United States is filled with racists for these lobbyist groups and these groups that want to make sure that racism is their thing when evidence is to the contrary. So all of a sudden, Now that 10 to 15, 20-year window I told you about, we were talking to high school students this week. And I said, can you guys give us some examples of racism? And this, and they go, no, there's none. We see stupid people being stupid. We don't see racism. And I said, oh my God, out of the mouth of babes. There's stupid people being stupid. They don't see racism. Because it's been absent from the history books. And whatever's taken place is not going to hit until the next 10 to 15 years. So can you imagine the progress that is made where each individual in the United States is treated as equals, and it has nothing to do with the color of their skin or anything else, instead of meeting a quota system and or meeting a system that's required to promote people or yakety schmackety blah blah blah. So each person is judged by their merits, their actions, their deeds, and their ability to do the job. What a unique concept. And I think it's changing regardless of how the lobbyists want to sell racism or not, and it's just not going to be available for them. But we started this off with artificial intelligence. So I'll leave it with artificial intelligence. If artificial intelligence can't see your race and you're chosen for the job, are you the most qualified? It's blind. Think about that. All right, we come back from the break. The Twins are up. And we have a 12-minute roundtable this week. We're actually... Bernie Sanders may surf us again? Oh, God, help us. All right, we'll be talking about that when we get back from the break. Welcome to the Intelligence Syndicate, and stay with us for the Hayden Collins radio program. Next segment.